The laboratory was deep under the ground. Old Seoul had been rebuilt many times, but this place stayed hidden. Park Tae looked at the screen in front of him. The numbers did not make sense. He ran the test again. The same result appeared. He sat back in his chair and rubbed his eyes. For 20 years, he had studied human DNA. He knew every part of it. But what he saw now was impossible. Human genes were changing. Not slowly over thousands of years like normal evolution. They were changing fast. Every generation was different from the one before. Stronger, faster, smarter, the human body was rewriting itself. Tae picked up his communicator. He needed to tell someone. But who would believe him? Far above the laboratory, Kim Yuna stood on a platform that looked out at the night sky. She was the commander of Earth's defense force. Her job was to protect a planet that the galaxy thought was dead, 2,000 years ago. The Galactic Concord had sent a plague to Earth. They called it the Vorith Plague because they blamed it on an accident. But it was no accident. The Concord had created it. They had released it on purpose. They wanted to kill every human. The plague killed billions. Cities burned, governments fell. The few who survived thought humanity was finished. But humans did not die. They hid. They rebuilt, created a cloud of gas and dust around their solar system so no one could see them. For 2,000 years, they grew in secret. Yuna watched a small ship land on the platform. A young officer stepped out and saluted. "Report," Yuna said. "The Concord still thinks we are extinct," the officer said. "They have divided our old territory among 5 species. The Voroth control the largest part?" Yuna nodded slowly. "The Voroth. The ones who had made the plague. The ones who had watched human children die and done nothing to help." "What else?" she asked. "They found an old human colony ship drifting near Kel's space. They destroyed it without checking for survivors. They said it was contaminated." Yuna's hands became fists. Even now, even thinking humans were gone, the galaxy still hated them. In another part of the city, an old man named Lee Su sat in a room full of ancient machines. He had spent his whole life studying the time before the plague. Most records had been destroyed, but Su was patient. He found pieces here and there, put them together like a puzzle. Tonight he found the last piece. He stared at the transmission on his screen. It was a recording from a Concord meeting 2,000 years ago. The leaders of 5 species sat around a table. They were talking about Earth. "Humans adapt too quickly," a Vorith leader said. "They have only been in space for 300 years. Already they have colonies on 40 worlds. In another 1,000 years, they will be stronger than all of us." "What do you suggest?" a Saren asked. "We end them now, while we still can." "Plague is ready," Akel said. "We have tested it on human prisoners. It works. No human can survive it." Su felt sick. They had known. The whole Concord had known. They had voted to kill his species. Every leader had said yes. He saved the recording and stood up. Commander Yuna needed to see this. The next morning, Park Tae presented his findings to the Science Council. The room was quiet as he explained what he had found. "Human DNA is evolving," he said, "but not randomly. Something is guiding it. Every generation becomes more advanced. Our brains process information 10 times faster than our ancestors. Our bodies heal from injuries in hours instead of weeks. And some people are developing abilities that should not be possible." "What kind of abilities?" a council member asked. "Moving objects without touching them? Sensing emotions from far away? Some claim they can see things that have not happened yet." The room filled with whispers. Tae raised his hand for silence. "The plague did not kill us. It changed us. Our bodies learned to fight it, and they kept learning, kept improving. We are not the same species that the Concord tried to destroy. We have become something new." That evening, Yuna called a meeting of the United Council. Every leader on Earth attended. Lee Su played his recording. The room watched in silence as the Concord voted for genocide. When it ended, no one spoke. Some had tears on their faces. Others looked angry. A young general stood up. "They murdered us," he said. "They poisoned our world and left us to die. and now they live in our old colonies. They teach their children that humans were monsters. They celebrate the day we supposedly went extinct. What do you propose? An elder asked. War, the general said. Complete and total war. More voices joined him. The anger in the room grew. Yuna listened to all of them. Then she raised her hand and the room fell silent. For 2,000 years we have hidden, she said. We have watched and waited. We have grown strong in secret. The Concord thinks we are ghosts. Dust. A mistake they corrected long ago. She looked around the room at every face. They tried to kill us. They think they succeeded. I say we show them what extinction really looks like, but not today. Not yet. When we strike, it will not be out of anger. It will be with a plan. A plan so perfect that when the galaxy sees us again, they will know true fear. The council voted. Every hand rose in favor. Humanity would go to war. But first they would prepare. They would build ships and weapons beyond anything the Concord had ever seen. They would train their soldiers to use their new abilities. They would become unstoppable. And when they were ready, they would remind the galaxy why it had feared them in the first place. In his laboratory, Park Tae looked at his data one more time. The evolution was accelerating. Something big was coming. He did not know what it was, but he could feel it. Humanity was approaching a point of no return, a moment when they would stop being human and become something greater. He called it the threshold, and it was coming soon. 3 years passed. Earth changed in ways that no one could have predicted. Cho Hannah was 19 years old. She sat in a white room with her eyes closed. In front of her, a metal ball floated in the air. It moved left, then right, then up toward the ceiling. Hannah was not touching it. She was only thinking about it. A scientist watched from behind a glass wall, wrote notes on his tablet. The girl was remarkable. She could move objects with her mind. She could sense what people felt from rooms away. Last week, she had told him about a fire before it happened. She had seen it in her mind, like a memory of something that had not occurred yet. Hannah opened her eyes as the metal ball fell to the floor with a soft sound. I am tired, she said. You did well, the scientist told her through a speaker. Your control is improving. Rest now. Hannah left the room and walked through the long hallways of the training center. She was not alone. There were hundreds like her now, young people born after the plague who could do impossible things. The scientists called them the Awakened. Hannah did not like the name, but she understood why they used it. Something inside humanity was waking up, something that had always been there, sleeping, waiting, in another part of the planet. Jin stood inside a ship that was still being built. He was the chief engineer of the project. For 10 years, he and his team had worked on this vessel. Today, it was finally complete. The ship was called the Ascendant. It was the most powerful weapon ever created by any species in the known galaxy. Its engines used energy from the empty space itself. Its weapons did not shoot fire or metal. They unmade things. They broke matter apart at the smallest level, turning solid objects into nothing. Beak Jin touched the cold wall of the ship. He had given his life to this project. His wife had left him. His children barely knew him, but none of that mattered now. Is it ready? A voice asked behind him. Jin turned to see Commander Yuna. She looked older than she had 3 years ago. The weight of what was coming showed on her face. It is ready, Jin said. The Ascendant can destroy anything the Concord has. Their biggest ships would last seconds against us.
Oh.
One ship is not enough. I know. We have started building more. In 2 years, we will have a fleet of 50. In 5 years, 500. They cannot stop what is coming, Yuna nodded. She walked around the ship, looking at every detail. Jin followed her. There is something I do not understand, she said. Our technology has advanced faster than it should. We went from hiding in caves to building ships like this in just a few centuries. How is that possible? Jin thought about the question. The Awakened help us. Some of them can see solutions to problems that our computers cannot solve. A young girl last month looked at our engine design and told us exactly what was wrong. She could not explain how she knew. She just knew.
Acte calls it collective intelligence, Yuna said.
Our minds are starting to connect. We are becoming one. Does that frighten you? Yuna was quiet for a moment. No, it gives me hope. In her office, Yunera studied maps of the galaxy. She was Yuna's second in command, but her job was not military. She was a diplomat, a strategist. She understood how enemies thought. The Concord had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They believed they were untouchable. They believed that their power would last forever. This belief was their weakness. Era had a plan. When humanity revealed itself, they would not attack immediately. They would let the galaxy see them, and let them understand what they were facing. Let fear do most of the work. She called it psychological warfare. Break the enemy's spirit before the first shot is fired. A message appeared on her screen. The nebula that hid Earth was ready to dissolve. The signal had been given. In 12 hours, Earth would be visible to the galaxy for the first time in 2,000 years. Park Tae worked late in his laboratory. His research had become an obsession. Every day he learned more about what humanity was becoming. The threshold was real. It was a point in their evolution when humans would stop being merely biological. Their minds would connect fully. Their bodies would change in ways he could barely understand. They would become something beyond physical existence, and it was coming faster than anyone expected. He looked at his latest data. The awakened were multiplying. New abilities appeared every week. Some could heal wounds by touching them. Others could communicate without speaking. A few could bend light around their bodies and become invisible. But the strangest thing was the connection. The awakened reported hearing each other in their minds. Not words exactly, but feelings, ideas, as if they were all part of one larger being. Tae did not know what humanity would become after the threshold. Gods. Something beyond gods. He was not sure the word had been invented yet. In deep space, a Kel patrol ship moved slowly through an empty region. The officer on duty was bored. Nothing ever happened here. This part of space had been dead for 2,000 years, ever since the humans had been eliminated. Then his screen lit up. He leaned forward, not believing what he saw. A signal, a strong signal, coming from a direction that should have been empty. He ran a scan. His blood went cold. A star system, planets, satellites, and technology. Advanced technology. More advanced than anything in the Concord? "This is impossible," he whispered. "There's nothing there. There has been nothing there for centuries." He opened a communication channel to his captain. His hands were shaking. "Sir, I am detecting a signal from the Sol system, the human home system. Static." Then the captain's voice, confused and annoyed. "The humans are dead. Your equipment is broken. Sir, I am looking at it right now. There are ships, hundreds of ships, maybe thousands, and they are coming this way." Silence. The officer stared at his screen. The fear he felt was unlike anything he had known, because he understood what this meant. The humans were not dead. They had never been dead. And now they were coming back. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Within hours, every species knew. The humans were alive. The humans had returned. On 100 worlds, people stopped what they were doing and stared at their screens. Fear spread faster than any ship could travel. Parents held their children close. Leaders called emergency meetings. Military commanders demanded answers that no one could give. High Speaker Tal stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Concord. He was a Saren, tall and thin, with silver skin that reflected the light. He had led the Concord for 80 years. In all that time, he had never seen his council so frightened. "Silence," he commanded. The room became quiet. "I will not have panic in this chamber. We are the Concord. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We do not fear ghosts. They are not ghosts," a Vorth general said. "Our scouts have confirmed it. The Sol system is populated. They have ships. They have weapons. They have cities on every planet. Then our scouts are wrong. With respect, High Speaker, I saw the data myself. This is real." Tal looked at the general with cold eyes. The humans were primitive. They had barely learned to travel between stars. Even if some survived the plague, they could not have built what you describe. Not in 2,000 years. Not in 10,000 years. "Perhaps they had help," a Kel minister suggested. From whom? No species in the Concord would assist them. They were marked for elimination. Everyone agreed. The room fell silent again. Tao could see the fear in their faces. These were the leaders of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, and they were acting like frightened children. Send a fleet to the Sol system, he ordered. A large one. We will see what is really there. And if somehow the humans have survived, we will finish what we started. Far from the Concord Hall, on a small trading station near Vorath Space, a man named O'Day watched the news with a smile on his face. He was human. He had lived among the Vorath for 40 years, pretending to be one of them. His appearance had been changed by surgery. His voice had been modified. Even his smell had been altered to match Vorath biology. For 4 decades, he had gathered information. He had learned their secrets. He had waited for this moment now. His waiting was over. He walked to his private room and locked the door. From a hidden space in the wall, he pulled out a small device. It was a transmitter. It's powerful enough to reach every communication network in the galaxy. He pressed a button and spoke a code word. The device activated. On every screen, on every station, on every ship and colony and homeworld in the known galaxy, the image changed. A human woman appeared. She had dark hair and steady eyes. She stood on the bridge of a ship that looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. It was Commander Kim Yuna. People of the Concord, she began. Her voice was calm and clear. You do not know me, but you know what I am. I am human. I am one of billions. And I am here to deliver a message. Across the galaxy, every being stopped to listen. 2,000 years ago, your leaders gathered in secret. They decided that humanity was a threat. Not because we had attacked anyone, not because we had broken any law, but because we grew too fast, because we adapted too well, because you were afraid of what we might become, so you created a plague. You released it on our world. You watched as billions of us died in agony. You watched our children cry for help that never came. And when you thought we were all dead, you celebrated. You divided our home among yourselves like thieves. You erased our history from your records. You thought you had one. Una paused. Her eyes seemed to look directly at every viewer. You were wrong. We did not die. We survived. We grew. We evolved. And now we have become something you cannot understand. Something you cannot fight. Something you cannot stop. You called us primitive. You said we were animals that needed to be put down. But while you grew comfortable and lazy, we grew strong. While you forgot how to struggle, we learned how to overcome anything. While you believed in your own greatness, we became truly great. Today, I am not asking for peace. I am not offering forgiveness. You showed our ancestors no mercy. You will receive none from us. This is a declaration of war, not a war of conquest, not a war for territory, a war of justice. Every leader who voted for our extinction will answer for that crime. Every species that participated will face judgment. You cannot hide. You cannot run. You cannot bargain. You can only wait and see what happens when the species you tried to destroy comes back to collect what is owed. The transmission ended. The screens went dark. On a Kel colony world, a young translator named Mira sat frozen at her desk. She had just heard the most frightening message of her life, but something about it bothered her. The humans spoke of a vote, a decision to kill them. She had never learned this in school. The official history said the plague was an accident, a tragedy, but not a crime. She went to the archives. She searched for old records, documents that had been classified or forgotten. It took her hours, but she found them. The truth was worse than the human woman had said. The plague had been tested on human prisoners first. Thousands of humans had been captured and infected just to make sure the disease would work. The Concord had watched them die and taken notes. Mira felt sick. Her entire civilization was built on a lie. They were not the noble species she had believed them to be. They were murderers. She did not know what to do with this knowledge, but she knew she could not forget it. In orbit around a Vorath colony, the first human fleet emerged from a fold in space. 100 ships appeared where nothing had been before. They were beautiful, and terrifying. Glowing with energy that made Vorath sensors go blind, Admiral Kanghan stood on the bridge of the lead ship. He was an older man with gray in his hair and scars on his hands. He had trained for this moment his entire life. "Open a channel to the colony," he ordered. A Vorath commander appeared on the screen. His face was pale with fear. "You have 1 hour to surrender," Hayan said simply. "All weapons will be disabled. All military personnel will be detained. Civilians will not be harmed, and if we refuse—" Hyun leaned forward. "Then you will learn what happens to those who refuse. I promise you, you do not want that lesson." The screen went dark. Hyun turned to his officers. "Begin the operation." The war had begun. The Vorath colony refused to surrender. They believed help was coming. They believed the Concord would save them. Admiral Kang Hyun gave them exactly 1 hour. When the time ended, he gave a single command: disable their weapons. The human ships moved. Light pulsed from their sides, beautiful and strange. It washed over the colony and the Vorath defense fleet like a gentle wave. Every weapon stopped working. Every ship lost power. Every defense system went dark. The Vorath were not harmed. They were simply made helpless. The entire operation took 14 seconds. Hyun opened a channel to the Vorath commander again. The alien's face was now white with terror. "Your weapons are gone," Hyun said. "Your ships are dead. You have nothing left to fight with. Surrender now, or we will land troops and take you by force." This time, the Vorath surrendered. News of the battle spread quickly. The Concord had never seen anything like this. A human fleet had defeated an entire colony without killing a single person. It was a display of power so complete that it seemed impossible. High Speaker Tal called for a united response. The 5 species of the Concord assembled the largest fleet in galactic history. 3,000 warships from the Vorath, Kel, Duna, and Saren gathered at a meeting point. The Thorn refused to send ships. They said they needed to protect their own worlds. The combined fleet moved toward human space. Their commanders believed that numbers would win. 3,000 against 100. The math was simple. They were wrong. Songnari was 23 years old. She was a pilot, one of the best among the awakened. Her ability was strange but powerful. She could perceive time differently than normal people. In battle, everything slowed down for her. Seconds became minutes. She could see attacks coming before they reached her. She led a squadron of 12 ships against the Concord fleet. The battle began at the edge of a dead star system. The Concord fleet fired thousands of weapons at once. Missiles and energy beams filled the space between them. Nari smiled. To her, the weapons moved slowly, like drops of water falling through thick air. She spoke commands to her squadron, telling them exactly where to move, exactly when to fire. Her ships danced through the storm of destruction. Not one was touched. Then they attacked. Human weapons were different from anything the Concord had seen. They did not explode. They unmade. A single shot could erase a warship from existence. Where the ship had been, only empty space remained. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it ended, the Concord fleet was gone. 3,000 ships destroyed. Not one human vessel was damaged. The survivors who managed to escape told stories that no one believed. They said the human ships moved too fast to follow. They said human pilots seemed to know what would happen before it happened. They said some humans could appear and disappear like ghosts. These stories spread fear through the galaxy like poison. The Duna were the first to surrender. Their leaders contacted Commander Yuna and begged for peace. They had voted against the genocide, they claimed. They had been forced to participate. Yuna checked the historical records. The Duna were lying. They had voted yes like everyone else. But their military was weak. They were willing to give up the leaders who had made that choice. She accepted their surrender. The Kel followed soon after. Mira, the young translator who had discovered the truth, had shared the old records with everyone she could find. The Kel people learned what their ancestors had done. Many were horrified. Protests erupted on every Kel world. The government fell within days. Nukel leaders contacted Yuna and asked what they needed to do to make things right. Only the Vorath and the Saren continued to fight. They believed they could still win if they fought hard enough. On an ancient world at the edge of Thorn space, Elder Vorn waited. He was very old, even by Thorn standards. He had been alive during the time of the genocide. He remembered the humans before the plague. He remembered voting no. The Thorn had tried to stop the genocide. They had argued that it was wrong to destroy an entire species out of fear, but they had been outvoted. 4 species against 1. Now, Vorn wanted to make things right. He sent a message to Commander Yuna. He asked to meet with her. He wanted to surrender the Thorn and beg for mercy. Yuna agreed to meet him on a neutral station. When she arrived, she was not what Vorn had expected. She was smaller than he thought. Her hair was gray now, touched by the stress of war, but her eyes were steady and strong. "You voted against our destruction," she said. "It was not a question." "I did. My people did. But we could not stop the others. And now you want forgiveness. I want understanding. We are not like the Vorath. We never celebrated your death. We mourned it. For 2,000 years, we have carried the shame of what the Concord did." Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Vorn could not read her expression. "I believe you," she finally said. "The Thorn will not be punished for the crimes of others. But you must help us bring the guilty to justice. The Vorath and Saren leaders who voted for genocide must answer for what they did." "I will help you," Vorn promised. While Yuna negotiated with Vorn, something strange was happening across the human fleet. Park-Tay had been monitoring the Awakened for months. Their abilities were growing stronger every day. But now, something new was occurring. They were connecting to each other in ways that should not be possible. Johanna reported hearing voices in her mind. Not words, but feelings and images. Other Awakened reported the same thing. It was as if their minds were becoming one. Tay ran tests and found that their brain activity was synchronizing. When one Awakened felt something strongly, all of them felt it. When one solved a problem, the solution appeared in all their minds at once. The threshold was approaching. He could see it in the data. Humanity was about to change forever. He tried to contact Yuna, but she was still in negotiations. He left an urgent message. During a battle near a Saren outpost, Hannah collapsed. The other Awakened caught her before she fell to the ground. Her eyes were open, but they were glowing white, filled with a light that came from somewhere beyond normal space. When she spoke, her voice was different, deeper, larger, as if 1,000 people were speaking through her at once. "We are waking up," the voices said, "and soon we will remember what we truly are." Then the light faded, and Hannah returned to herself. She looked at the others with wonder and fear. "Something is coming," she whispered. "Something bigger than all of us. And when it arrives, nothing will ever be the same." The galaxy was falling. Every day brought news of another surrender. The Duna had given up their leaders to human justice. The Kel had rebuilt their government with young people who wanted peace. The Thorn worked side by side with human forces to hunt down war criminals. Only the Vorith remained. They had retreated to their homeworld, a massive planet covered in fortress cities and military installations. Their leaders knew that surrender meant death. The humans would not forgive them. The Vorath had created the plague. They had tested it on human prisoners. They had laughed as humanity died, so they prepared for a final stand deep beneath their capital city. The Vorath activated weapons that had been hidden for thousands of years. Planet killers. 10 massive devices designed to destroy entire worlds. They had been built for a war that happened before the Concord even existed. If the humans came for them, they would take as many with them as possible. Commander Kim Yuna stood on the bridge of the Ascendant. She was no longer young. The war had aged her, but her will had not weakened. "How many ships do they have?" she asked. "Their fleet is destroyed," Admiral Kong Hayan reported. "Only ground defenses remain." But our scouts detected something else. Energy signatures beneath the surface. Massive ones. Planet killers. Yes, 10 of them. If they fire those weapons at our fleet, We will lose thousands of ships. Yuna nodded slowly. She had expected this. The Voreth would rather destroy themselves and everything around them than face justice. Prepare the fleet, she ordered. I will lead the assault myself. The human armada moved toward the Vorath homeworld. 5,000 ships, carrying millions of soldiers. The largest military force humanity had ever assembled. But as they traveled through space, something began to happen. Park Tae watched his instruments with growing alarm. The readings were off the charts. The awakened across the fleet were synchronizing faster than ever before. Their brain patterns were merging into one. The threshold was here. On every ship, the awakened stopped what they were doing. Their eyes glowed white. Their minds opened to something vast and ancient and impossibly beautiful. For one infinite moment, every human in the galaxy was connected. They were no longer individuals. They were one being, made of billions of souls. They saw themselves as they truly were, as they had always been meant to be. Not just humans. Not just evolved creatures of flesh and blood. Something more. Something that existed beyond matter, beyond time, beyond all the limits of physical existence. They saw the path forward. They could become gods of destruction. They could wipe the Voreth from existence with a thought. They could remake the galaxy in their image. Or they could choose differently. The moment ended. The connection faded. But something had changed. Every human knew it. They had touched infinity, and it had changed them forever. Yuna opened her eyes. Tears were running down her face. She had seen what humanity could become. She had felt the power that flowed through them, and she had seen the choice that lay before her. The fleet arrived at the Vorath homeworld. The planet hung in space like a dark jewel, covered in clouds and city lights. Billions of Voreth lived there, waiting to see what would happen. The planet killers activated. 10 beams of terrible light reached up toward the human fleet. Yuna raised her hand. The beam stopped. Not destroyed. Just stopped. Frozen in space, as if time itself had paused. The energy hung in the void, beautiful and deadly, unable to move forward. Every Voreth on the planet saw what happened. Their greatest weapons had been stopped by a single human gesture. Yuna spoke. Her voice reached every being on the world below, carried by a power that needed no technology. You are afraid because you cannot understand what we have become. Neither can we, not yet. We could end you with a thought. We could unmake your species from history. We could do to you exactly what you did to us. The galaxy was listening, but we choose differently. We will remember what you did. We will never forget. The guilty will face justice. The criminals will answer for their crimes. But we will not become what you were. We will not let hatred define our future. You tried to kill us, and in trying, you made us into something greater. Something that does not need revenge to feel whole. This war is over. Surrender your leaders. Accept judgment. And learn to live in a galaxy where humanity is not your victim, but your teacher. The Vorath leaders tried to fire the planet killers again. Nothing happened. Their technology had stopped working. Their weapons were useless. Within hours, the population rose up against them. The leaders were captured by their own people and delivered to human forces. The war ended. Not with fire and destruction, but with a choice that echoed across the stars. The galaxy began to heal. Human judges worked with alien courts to try those responsible for the genocide. Leaders who had voted for extinction faced their crimes. Some were executed. Others were imprisoned. All were remembered. New governments formed. Species that had been enemies learned to work together. Humans did not rule over them, but guided them. They shared their technology, their knowledge, their understanding of what life could be. 100 years passed. Cho Hannah stood at the edge of the observable universe. She was no longer human in the way she had once been. Her body existed, but it was just one small part of her now. Her consciousness stretched across dimensions that had no names. Beside her was Mira, the Kel translator who had spent her life understanding humanity's transformation. She was old now, her silver skin wrinkled with age. But her mind was still sharp. Where will you go? Mira asked. Hannah smiled. She looked out at the endless darkness between galaxies. Stars burned in the distance, countless and eternal. Everywhere, she said. There are other species out there, beyond the edges of what we know. Young ones. Frightened ones. Species who will face their own trials, their own moments of near destruction. Will you save them? No, we cannot save anyone from their own journey. But we can show them that survival is possible. That growth comes from struggle. That the worst moments can become the seeds of something beautiful. Mira nodded slowly. She understood. Humanity had not become gods of vengeance. They had become something better. We were so afraid of you, she said. When you first returned, we thought you would destroy everything. But you gave us a future instead. Hannah turned to look at her old friend. In Mira's eyes, she could see the reflection of stars. Hatred is a cage, Hannah said, and we grew too vast for cages. The ones who tried to kill us are dust now, but we are still here, still growing, still becoming. She reached out and touched Mira's cheek gently. Remember us, she said. Tell the stories of what humanity became. And when new species look to the stars and feel afraid, tell them this. The darkness is not empty. There are lights in it, placed there by those who walked the path before. Follow those lights, and you will find your way home. Hannah stepped forward. Space folded around her like water. For a moment, she hung between galaxies, between moments, between everything that was and everything that could be. Then she vanished into infinity, but she was not gone. She was everywhere now. A whisper of hope in the void. A promise that no matter how dark things became, there was always a path toward the light. Humanity had risen from the ashes of genocide to become something that galaxy had never imagined. They had become hope itself, and they would never stop growing.